What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of our live Q&A. I'm here with the beautiful and talented Jennifer Westheimer. How you doing, Jen?
Doing great. It's beautiful outside, so
You
even
staying
better.
awake? You staying awake?
Yes. I did my 5 a.m. workout, but I'm doing my best to stay awake. I can't have coffee anymore though, but
Yeah.
I'll find other ways to stay awake.
Yeah, Jen's on this crazy kick now where she's getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go work out. And as much of a workout enthusiast as I am, that's a little crazy for me. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the questions for today. So, why don't we do it a little bit differently? Why don't you just gotta go do an overview of what all three questions are first, and then we'll dig into the first one.
All right. The first question actually is more of a general question, and then the rest of the questions are more for health and fitness. So, first question is, what should I do when I'm in pain? Next is a powerful tactic to improve cardiovascular recovery. I guess this is for our people who are more active, runners, and all that. And the last one would be, what do you think is an activity for health and fitness that would get you the biggest bang for your buck?
Cool. I like it. So, I guess let's go ahead and start with the first one. And I know that's kind of a general or vague question, but it's one that I get a lot. And it's like, I'm in pain. What types of things should I do? It's one school of thought is just we need to get rid of the pain. So that looks like painkillers, like anything that gets rid of the pain. If you're not in pain, that means you're fine. And then you have another school on the opposite, which is it doesn't matter if you're in pain, you just got to push through it, show how strong you are, show your grit, and get through it. And the reality is neither one of those is an appropriate response to pain. So, number one, the first thing we have to look at is what is the root cause of the pain that you're experiencing. So we need to find out what's going on. So if you have a nail in your foot and that's causing the pain, like you got to pull the nail out. Now, once you pull that nail out of the foot, walking on your foot for a while is going to be uncomfortable. So you might have to adapt your behaviors to continue to do what you want to do without experiencing that pain while your body has time to heal. And so getting out of pain is not usually a one time thing or a quick fix type thing. It's a combination of removing the root cause and then giving the body time to heal and to recover. And the best way for you to do that is actually to keep movement, as much movement in the area as possible, especially if you have a musculoskeletal issue. A lot of people, the old mindset is this whole RICE thing: rest, ice, compression, elevation. And we realized that that was not the best approach, that the research that has come out since then has showed that rest and ice is not an appropriate response if you want to maximize healing and recovery. But what you want to do is you want to activate the area, create movement in the tissues, and keep fluid moving in and out of the tissues, flushing the area as much as possible while doing it in pain-free ranges of motion. So here would be an example. Let's say you have low back pain. And obviously, other than getting adjusted to correct the subluxations, what you want to do is you don't want to keep pushing through exercises that reinforces those pain signals. So what you want to do is, let's say you have back pain, but doing crunches, doing the quadruped, walking, even just standing in place and marching in place, doing planks, doing side bending, hanging from a pull-up bar. As long as those things don't cause pain, then those are the things we want to do throughout the day to create activation and movement and flushing of the tissues, which helps the area to heal better. So the quick version is if you're in pain, you want to keep moving and you want to keep activating the areas, but you want to do it through ideally pain-free ranges of movement. You don't want to get into the painful ranges because then you're reinforcing those pain pathways. So recovery comes from movement, activation, compression, flushing in ranges that are going to be pain-free. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense. And I get what you're saying about taking painkillers too when you're in pain. Although I personally would make an exception if it's something, if the pain is too much that I can't function, maybe I'll do that just to get through the day. But I do not want to rely on that, especially if I work out and I hurt myself. Because if you take a painkiller for that and that okay gets you through the day, but you keep on um injuring that area, then you're just masking the pain, if you know what I mean, and you just keep irritating that area without finding what's causing that pain in the first place and addressing that issue.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point about like, does this mean that no matter what, I should never take anything? And the answer is no. But I just want to clarify one of the things that you said in that when you're talking about getting through your daily activities, if you're in pain, you don't want to take a painkiller so you can go to the gym and work out when you shouldn't be doing that day. For example, if you need something to relieve yourself because you can't sleep at night, like you have to get sleep, you have to prioritize recovery. And so be careful about taking things. And this isn't advice about medication, taking medication at all anyway, just my own personal experience, is that if you take something to be able to push yourself harder than you know that you should be, you could potentially do more damage. And by only taking it to allow you to do the things for recovery, then that could potentially help with the healing process. So you just want to be careful. There's definitely a lot of nuance to that.
So would you like to move on to the next question? Do you remember the second question?
Why don't you remind all of us?
A powerful tactic to improve cardiovascular recovery.
Okay, so I think I've talked about this in a past live, but it's worth repeating. One of the big things when we talk about our ability to recover cardiovascularly, we're not talking about like the muscles burning. That's something completely different. What we're talking about recovering cardiovascularly is allowing our elevated heart rate to come down quicker or to allow our body's ability to utilize oxygen to become much more efficient. And so a lot of our need for breathing, like let's say you're wearing a pulse oximeter, which I have around here somewhere, but you're wearing a pulse ox and that's measuring your oxygen saturation. Most of us, when we become out of breath and we're from working out real hard, we look at our pulse ox and it's like, oh, we still have plenty of oxygen. Why am I breathing so hard? And a lot of that has to do with your ability to tolerate CO2 or carbon dioxide. It's the buildup of CO2 that creates that breathing urge, that desire and urge to breathe, not so much the depletion of oxygen. And so I found that one of the things that I've done that's made a massive difference in my recovery when I go mountain biking or I'm riding the Peloton or I'm doing anything that involves cardiovascular fitness. I actually didn't do a whole lot of cardiovascular stuff at the time, but what I did do was breath hold work. And here's a disclaimer. Talk to your doctor before you do any kind of an intense breath hold work. And do not do it while you're driving. Do not do it in a place where, if God forbid you do pass out, you're in danger. And do not ever, ever, ever do it in the water unless you have supervision close by and you really know what you're doing. That can be very dangerous. So now that you're on your couch, on a safe part of your bed, laying on the floor, and you're ready to do your breath hold work, I found a great app to use. It's called Stamina, capital STA, and then lowercase MINA. And I've been working on doing breath hold work just about every single morning. They have a carbon dioxide component and they have an oxygen component. So here's the difference. Working on your ability to tolerate and buffer carbon dioxide is you're going to hold your breath for a certain time period. And then throughout the training cycle, that one training period, you're going to reduce your ability to recover in between breath holds. So for example, it might be hold your breath for a minute, then you get a minute to recover. Then the next one, hold your breath for a minute, then you might only get 50 seconds to recover. Then hold for a minute, 40 seconds, minute 30, minute 20, minute 10, and then a minute at the end. So by the end, you only have 10 seconds to recover in between. So it really kind of forces you to be able to tolerate CO2 at a much higher level. Then you have the oxygen table where you hold your breath longer, but you have a steady and longer recovery period. And what that does is allows you to fully recover. And then you're increasing the amount of time that you're holding your breath for, which helps you to tolerate oxygen more than necessarily the CO2. And so I found that to be really, really valuable. I've noticed a boost in my energy, a boost in my immune system. And I've also noticed that it's helped with my recovery when it comes to workouts. So I would definitely encourage you to give that a try. Check out that app. It's a really cool app. And if you have any questions, you can always post below and reach out.
Yeah, all good. Actually, I just started using that app as well. I do it in the morning. It's not easy, but I'm starting to get used to it. What I find though is I've also made a very conscious decision. Like when I work out, as much as possible, I breathe through my nose. Um, Even though when I'm doing my Peloton rides and I can't take it anymore, that's when I start to open my mouth. But as much as possible, I try to breathe in and breathe out through my nose. And I realized that it actually helps me recover faster when I work out using that method of breathing.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. All right. On to our last question. An activity for health and fitness that you think will get you the biggest bang for your buck.
Yeah, so if you're really looking for the biggest bang for your buck, you want to choose activities that work as much of your total body at the same time as possible and engage all of the different energy systems and physical systems of the body. So what I mean by that is if you look at things like part of your improvement from a physical perspective, you're looking at strength, power, stability, flexibility, mobility, accuracy, coordination. So you're looking at all of those components. So imagine doing an exercise that you incorporate all of those things at the exact same time. And then you want to work your different energy systems, cardiovascular, your glycolytic, your oxidative. And so if you can find an activity where you can engage all of those things while having a powerful mental and emotional component to it as well, to me, that's the biggest bang for your buck exercise. And if you haven't figured out by now and you don't know me well enough, that exercise is, what is it, Jen?
Do I really have to guess? It's rock climbing.
That's right. It is rock climbing. I'm a huge fan of both gymnastics and rock climbing for those reasons. And rock climbing, it's just an amazing workout from a physical, mental, emotional perspective. It's great for community. And, you don't have to be, a lot of people think that they have to be an expert to start. The way that most rock climbing gyms are set up is where they have routes that are basically, if you can climb a ladder, you can pretty much do rock climbing. And then you have other ones that are like what you see on TV and in the movies, which are really, really hard, crazy difficult, ridiculously high levels. But as long as you can climb a ladder, if you're physically fit enough to climb up and down a ladder, then you can start rock climbing in most gyms because they're going to have routes that are set up that are that easy to do. And it's an incredible workout. It's a great family activity. And it engages so much of the body. It's just such an incredible way to get fit and to have fun doing it.
Yeah, we actually, I think for you guys who know us, we actually started rock climbing together. That's how we became friends too in the beginning, because we rock climbed a lot, indoor rock climbing back in Singapore where we met. So just a little bit of a backstory there. But yeah, that's what we did traveling. That's what we did traveling around the world too.
Yeah, that's when Jen fell in love with me, is when we started rock climbing.
Sure.
Yeah, so we started doing it and we were going 3 days a week about that. And then when we were traveling around the world, I carried a backpack with our regular things. Jen carried a backpack with all of our climbing gear, and we rock climbed through Thailand, Vietnam, Italy, Bulgaria, Spain, and then even the US. And then we got out of it for whatever reason. Actually, we got engaged at a rock climbing gym as well, which is a story for another day. And then we got out of it for like 2.5, 3 years or so. And then just recently we decided to get back into it again. So we renewed or started our membership at the local rock climbing gym, and we're going to get after it a few days a week again. So we're excited about that. So if anybody ever wants to join, just reach out to us and we'd be happy to take you with us.
Yep.
Cool.
Exactly.
Anything else?
I think that's all our questions for the
All
week.
right, guys, if you have any questions about what we talked about today, post below. If you have any other questions about things that you would like to talk about in future episodes, also comment below and let us know. And we love being here for you. You guys take care. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.
Have a great weekend, everyone.